Hi, OPS385. We are beginning our learning of Lean Six Sigma and process management. And this video and presentation will kind of help provide an introduction to DMAIC, which is the foundation of Lean Six Sigma, and the value dimensions, which are discussed in the week one reading materials. We have five elements of our value dimensions: agility, delivery, quality, cost, innovation. Those don't just happen on their own. We have to have some kind of foundation to help drive the dynamic changes that occur based on the business needs and the external, internal environments of the business. And DMAIC is also a dynamic methodology for continuous improvement in process management. So with DMAIC, we can constantly look forward and see where we need to make those improvements. So DMAIC involves the first letter is define. One thing we have to do is look at what our current state is. What is it today that we're doing that is not working, or where we're seeing unacceptable levels of failures? And then look to the future and determine where we want to be. What things need to change to get us to where we need to be and to meet our value dimensions. So the first thing we have to do is our problem definition. So is the process causing a problem? Is the process a high priority? We have a lot of problems, but not all of them are high priority because they don't have the highest impact on the business and our stakeholders. So we have to determine our priority of where we want to put our focus. And do we have resources available to even resolve a problem if we identify it? So when we look at problem statement under the D, the define step in DMAIC, our problem statement must be clear and concise. It needs to show the effect on the company if it's not resolved. What it cannot be is a solution statement or a cause statement. That comes later in the process. So we have to be able to engage the right people in the process to actually want to invest in solving the problem. So basically what would happen, we would work with our management team, our decision makers, with our project scope and get a buy-in. We need to be sanctioned to be able to do this. And we also have to be able to define the scope. Very often we identify a problem and we start working on it right away. We introduce causes, solutions, and the next thing you know, the problem we're solving is not the one we intended to solve. So this is where our SIPOC, the supplier inputs, process outputs, and customers comes into play. This is like the fence, if you will, that we put around our scope. Measure is the second letter in DMAIC, and this is where we have to say, okay, what is the actual qualitative and quantitative impact of our problem? There's a quote from Deming. It says, if you don't know how to ask the right question, you discover nothing. And this is very important. And this is why scope is so important, because we could be asking questions that have nothing to do with our problem. And the next thing we know, we're going down a totally different path and our problem still exists. So in order to determine exactly where we want to focus within our scope, we have to do process mapping. We're going to do the current state. So what is our current state? On the left, you'll see a very high level process map. I like to think of this as kind of a 50,000 foot view. And then on the right, you will see additional information. And these are two separate types of process maps. The one on the right is the one I like to use. At the top, it gives a very high level. So it has, this is the start, This is the stop, and the yellow box is the process itself. So then we take that down a few thousand feet, and for all of these individual rectangles are actually steps that fall within the yellow process box. And you'll see inputs to that step, outputs that come out of that step when it's done. And then those outputs are part of the inputs for the next step. So you can see that we could actually take each individual step of the process and even drill down further. So each of these steps could be its own process. So this is how we actually start drilling down to determine where in the scope we need to focus. So what can data tell you about the problem? So within Measure, we have to be able to get some data. There's different types of data we can collect. We can collect qualitative data. For example, if you are in a supply chain organization and you're looking at on-time delivery, you may want to collect customer surveys. You're going to look at focus groups, you're going to look at customer feedback. You may also look at collecting data over a week or a month, how many shipments were shipped on time for the month. So, if you make one shipment a day for a month that has 30 days, were 30 of them made on time, or maybe only 25 or whatever. So you're going to start charting. And this is what I call, we have graphical data. One thing that is very difficult in a supply chain environment versus a manufacturing environment is the type of data we get. In a more of a service organization, such as supply chain, because we don't make things in supply chain, we provide services, transactional services. We have more attribute data. So it's going to be either yes, we did, or no, we didn't. Where in manufacturing, there's a lot of different measurements that we can take, whether it's equipment measurements, product measurements, that kind of thing. And that's variable data. So there's a lot of different types of data we can collect. So the other thing we have to look at is whatever data that we're using, is it reliable? Are we using the right type of format, the right type of tool that is saying our data is real, that we're not skewing data because the type of format we're using is incorrect. And from this data, we can identify and prioritize possible causes of failures. Now, here are some tools. Some of these are actually in your reading in My Educator. We have an affinity diagram, which I personally don't use. It does have its place. And please look at the reading to get more information. This is like just a tick mark chart. So kind of going back to what I was saying about, on-time delivery, or, how many deliveries we make, you can keep track that way. We're going to talk more about 5 why analysis actually in our discussion questions. So this is actually drilling down into why a problem happened. We have histograms, we have Pareto charts, and we have a fishbone diagram. All of those are in your reading. I'm not going to go through them in this presentation, but these are all different types of tools that can help you further define a problem. Analyze is the A in DMAIC. So why analytics? What gets measured gets managed. If we are not measuring or focusing on how something is performing, we're not going to know what to manage. So, for example, let's say you get on the scale once a week. So you're measuring your weight every week, once a week. Let's say on a Monday, and so every Monday you're gonna weigh yourself, and you're gonna see if you're staying within the range that you want to be. If you don't do that, you make assumptions that everything is staying the same, but maybe it's not. So it gets away from you. Now, actually, University of Phoenix has a very good document that talks about different types of statistics. I'm not going to go through that here. I know when I was going through my Six Sigma Black Belt, statistics was a multi-month training, going through the different types of statistics that we use in a full-blown Black Belt project. But this is a good document that will help kind of introduce you to different types of statistical data. So you can click that link and go to that. The other part of Analyze is once you go through all the other steps, now you're ready. You've done all your problem definition. You've done measurement of data. And now you can start drilling down into what would be a root cause or possible root causes, and actually get to the one that you believe, you and your team. Because the other thing you got to remember, this isn't just one person doing this. You got a whole team of people working on this. So you can identify what the actual root cause is where you want to put your focus. And then with that, you want to brainstorm different solutions. So your team could have different types of facilitation workshops, brainstorming workshops, different types of activities where you are actually pulling in a lot of different solutions, possible solutions, and based on those, you're going to narrow it down to the one that you believe, based on the data that you've collected, based on the conditions that you've identified, the one that is going to provide the best benefit to solving your problem. Improve is the I in DMAIC. So now that we have identified our solution, we have to be able to implement and verify. So there's a whole process involved in creating an implementation plan. You've got to identify the who, what, where, when, how. Identify implementation owners. Your implementation can actually involve multiple functions within an organization. And this all needs to be tracked, documented, measured. The implementation needs to be measured just like everything else, to make sure you're on track. And then once the implementation is done, you have to have ways to verify that what you implemented is actually improving the process or solving the problem that you initially were trying to solve. Now, during this part, you may find that something was missed. So the verification helps you identify those areas where maybe cause and effect, you implemented one thing where you thought it was the thing, the solve all, and you realize it caused a different problem. Or the implementation plan itself was flawed. So you will have to go back and reevaluate what you need to do to reorganize and work through the process again. So one way to do that is to what's called Plan, Do, Check, Act. So this is kind of a condensed version of DMAIC, if you will. So you have your plan, you implement it, you check it, and then you act upon it. So the acting is, everything's good. We have our regular maintenance and monitoring, whether it's KPIs or whatever. you have your control limits set, whatever it is your process is, that tells you that you're within the controls where you want to be. And then if you're out of control, then you start the process again. So this is kind of a shorter version. I know we've used this a lot. We actually use a lot in manufacturing, and a lot of our automotive customers require a plan, do, check, act process be in place for the day-to-day operations in manufacturing. So it's just taking DMAIC, if you will, or taking our lean processes and putting them into a very real-time, short-term activity where people are looking every day at what's happening. Again, we're going to measure effectiveness of our solutions, which is part of the plan, do, check, act. And then finally, control. So once we believe our implementation was a success, we verified the implementation was what we wanted, everything's a go, we can't just stop and move on. There has to be something in place that makes sure that we institutionalize what we implemented. So we need monitoring, whether it's KPIs, certain checklists, whatever that we can monitor. There are management tools that can be monitored and maintained. We want to look at how we're continuously improving. We want to be able to share the knowledge. If we're in a company where what we defined as improvement and we implemented as improvement, it could be something that we could share across the company, and this solution or this process would add value in other areas of the organization. So we want to be able to expand, and this is often overlooked. But solving problems and driving continuous improvement, those are not easy things to do. We're working in the day-to-day. We're doing the firefighting. We're on the front line every day. And when we do things right, we often don't celebrate. So as leadership in companies where you're leading process improvements and process change and problem solving, don't forget to celebrate. It could be, some kind of acknowledgement notification. It could be something as simple as, you provide, easy breakfast for your team in the morning, or you have a pizza lunch or whatever. There's a lot of different things. It could even be something where you're doing simple little gift cards, or just, announcements on the company's intranet or website of these wins, if you will. So to wrap this up, all of these steps support our value dimensions, because as we continuously improve, we minimize waste, we minimize the different forms of waste, and one of the biggest being, redo. We become more agile. We add more value. We meet our deliveries. We meet our customer expectations. We institute innovation into our processes. So, we do all these things. So hopefully this helps kind of just take what is normally a very long course in the true sense of Six Sigma and kind of put it in a framework that lays it out, that helps you get through this class. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.